Thank you for joining us from our nation's capital, where history was made. The White House here behind me, where Donald Trump is spending his first night in 4 years, sworn in earlier today as the 47th president. A day like we've rarely seen, the historic return to the presidency in an inaugural ceremony. Moved indoors because of the bitter cold here, the president promising to bridge the gap that still divides us, while sharply criticizing the previous administration and issuing a record number of executive orders.
Will soon be over.
Tonight, with a toast and a twirl, Donald Trump closing out Inauguration Day and starting his second term as President of the United States. But amid the pomp and circumstance, President Trump wasting no time.
Sir, this is a proclamation declaring a national emergency at the southern border of the United States.
That's a big one. A lot of big ones, huh?
In a rare display of presidential power, Donald Trump taking questions from reporters and signing a flurry of executive orders, many aimed at the southern border and the January 6 defendants, issuing over 1,000 pardons to those charged in the attack on the Capitol, including some convicted of violent offenses and others with seditious conspiracy. All of this capping off an historic day, filled with moments that we didn't see 4 years ago, the presidential passing of the baton. This morning, President Joe Biden and First Lady Jill Biden welcoming Donald and Melania Trump back to the White House.
Donald Trump, just 2 weeks after January 6th itself, chose not to stick around for Joe Biden's inauguration. He was the first president in the modern era to not participate in the peaceful transition of power.
The main event of the day taking place inside the Capitol Rotunda because of the bitter cold. In the second row, some of the richest men in the world, including Meta's Mark Zuckerberg, Amazon's Jeff Bezos, Alphabet's Sundar Pichai, and Tesla's Elon Musk. All former presidents and first ladies were also in attendance today, except for Michelle Obama.
She felt that his searing rhetoric against Barack Obama threatened her family and the safety of her children, and couldn't bring herself to come.
Chants of USA as Donald Trump took the podium. J.D. Vance was sworn in first with his wife and kids by his side.
That I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
And then it was the president's turn.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
In his first speech as the 47th president, the theme was clear. America's decline is over.
From this day forward, our country will flourish and be respected again all over the world. We will be the envy of every nation, and we will not allow ourselves to be taken advantage of any longer. During every single day of the Trump administration, I will very simply put America first.
With Joe Biden just feet away, Donald Trump criticized the outgoing president and promised to roll back a number of his administration's accomplishments.
We will forge a society that is colorblind and merit-based. As of today, it will henceforth be the official policy of the United States government that there are only two genders, male and female.
He made clear that he was trying to separate himself and even do a 180 from the Biden years. He put the blame for inflation, the blame for national and international affairs squarely at the feet of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. It was awkward, to say the least.
Getting a standing ovation from Republicans when he mentioned his plans for the southern border.
All illegal entry will immediately be halted, and we will begin the process of returning millions and millions of criminal aliens back to the places from which they came. We will reinstate my Remain in Mexico policy.
The president ending on a more unified, hopeful tone.
From New York to Los Angeles, from Philadelphia to Phoenix, From Chicago to Miami, from Houston to right here in Washington, D.C., our country was forged and built by the generations of patriots who gave everything they had for our rights and for our freedom.
I think you already sense a lowering of the temperature in Washington. Doesn't mean that everything's going to be hunky-dory and people are going to be singing Kumbaya. That's not going to happen. But I think that the fight to the death is over.
Country star Carrie Underwood closing out the ceremony with America the Beautiful.
From sea to shining sea.
When Trump went from the rotunda and the solemnity and his speech delivered really in rather even tone for Trump. Then he walks into Emancipation Hall and it's a rally, it's a Trump rally. And he's going after his political enemies and he's trashing people, he's having sort of tossing the red meat.
Why are we helping Liz Cheney? I mean, Liz Cheney is a disaster. She's a crying lunatic and crying Adam Kinzinger. He's a super crying. I never saw the guy not crying. He's always crying.
That overflow room included YouTuber turned boxer Jake Paul, podcaster Theo Vaughn, and UFC champion Conor McGregor.
So I decided I'm not going to make this speech complicated. I'm going to make it beautiful. I'm going to make it a unifying speech. And then when they said we have a group of people that are serious Trump fans, I said, this is the time to tell those stories.
As Biden departed Joint Base Andrews, he had one final message.
We've always done our best as Americans. We never, never, never give up. Never. We're leaving office. We're not leaving the fight.
One of his final acts, preemptive pardons for officials who may face reprisals from the Trump administration, including Dr. Anthony Fauci, retired General Mark Milley, Liz Cheney, and some of his own family members. There was no traditional parade, but in the evening the president rallied thousands of supporters at the Capital One Arena. Some of the executive orders President Trump signed inside the stadium with supporters looking on.
The first item that President Trump is signing is the rescission of 78 Biden-era executive actions.
Beyond the border, the president taking aim at diversity, equity, and inclusion programs and pardoning a number of Americans connected to the January 6th attack on the Capitol. He pardoned or commuted the sentences of around 1,500 individuals, including Proud Boys leader Enrique Tarrio, who was sentenced to 22 years in prison, and Oath Keepers leader Stuart Rhodes, who was serving 18 years. The incoming administration said 2 other offenders are walking free late tonight.
I think most people assumed that nonviolent offenders, people that had some kind of a misdemeanor offense, they would have their cases thrown out. But the idea that he's essentially freeing people that committed violent actions, that went further than I think a lot of people recognized, reversing their sentences as part of an effort essentially to rewrite the history of one of the worst days in American political history.
Throughout the day, a number of high-profile tech executives were front and center, including Elon Musk, who is part of the new administration.
There need to be things that make you glad to wake up in the morning and say, I'm looking forward to the future.
All of these kind of titans of tech industry that populated the audience, often just right next to friends and family of the Trumps.
Tonight, the president winding down his historic return to the White House, keeping his word on a number of promises he made for day one.